Chapter 13, in which grapes are thrown and tears are shed. Who was that girl you were talking to? His mother's questions took Ravini by surprise as he climbed the porch steps. Girl? He asked, startled. He had walked all over town with Virginia, but somehow he still sort of felt like a secret. That was Virginia. Her family just moved in across the street. Really? His mother was quite reasonably confused. Usually a move involved a moving truck, a marching in of boxes and furniture, commotion. And you've met them? Ravini nodded. His mother put her hands on her hips, which was rarely a good sign. When were you going to tell me? Ravini swallowed. Right now, he tried. Really? Well, I feel rude. Wash your face and change out of those dirty clothes and then run over and invite them for lunch. I want to welcome them to the neighborhood. Ravini blinked. There was something about Virginia and her family that was so strange, even beyond their mysterious midnight arrival. They just didn't seem like the inviting them over for lunch type. What neighborhood? It's two houses on a dead-end road. Then I want to welcome them to the dead-end road, darling. Ravini chewed on his lip, looking back across the street. Go, his mother said. Now. A few moments later, he was freshly changed and rapping his knuckles on Virginia's front door. From the other side, he heard some hushed footsteps and back and forth whispers. He was just about ready to retreat back home and tell his mother that he tried when the door opened a crack. A sideways face appeared from behind the door, brown eyes peeking out from under brown bangs with a smattering of freckles underneath. Ravini could only see it from the nose up. Who is it? The eyes asked. It's me, Ravini stammered. Knock it off, you know who it is, said a fierce whisper, and the eyebrows in the doorway furrowed. The door opened a bit more so that Ravini could see a mouth missing a couple of teeth. The face was older than Annabelle's, but younger than Virginia's. 7 or 8 years old, maybe. You're the frog kid, right? The face asked. Yeah, I'm Raph. I live across the street. We know. Another head popped out from behind the door. Almost identical to the first, but a girl. She had the same eyes, the same freckles, the same straight brown hair. Twins. The two pairs of eyes stared at him. Well, is Virginia home? Yeah, the girl said. She's taking a bath. You her boyfriend or something? No, Ravini said quickly. His face burned hot. No, he added, then clarified, no. He stood there sweating and blushing and rocking on his feet like he had to go to the bathroom. He had completely forgotten why he was there. He was rescued by the familiar face of Colt walking down a flight of stairs. He wasn't wearing anything other than a towel tied around his waist, and he was chewing loudly on an apple. Frog Master, he said through a mouthful. How's it going? Fine, Ravini stuttered. In Ravini's house, no one ever walked around mostly naked. Colt saw him eyeing the towel. It's bath day, and I like to air dry. He held the half-eaten apple toward Ravini. Want a bite? No thanks. I'm supposed to see if you want to eat. Colt stopped mid-chew and squinted at him. Ravini blew out a breath and tried again. My mother wants to invite you all over for lunch today, if you want to come. Colt poked a bit of apple out his teeth with his tongue. All of us? Ravini nodded. Your parents, too. Colt shrugged and swallowed his bite and muttered under his breath. You must have a big table. What's for lunch? The younger boy asked from behind the door. Egg salad sandwiches. I'll come, the boy said without a beat. Hold on, Colt cut in, stretching his mouth to take a big bite off the core. I'll ask Mom. He turned and walked away up the stairs. The four silent eyes continued to stare at Ravini from behind the door. A finger crept out and picked one of the noses, then disappeared back behind the door, hopefully not toward a mouth. So, the girl said, "You're the frog killer." Ravini shook his head. "I don't kill them. I just catch them, then let them go." "That's weird." Ravini breathed a sigh of relief when Colt came jogging back down the stairs, the towel replaced by his usual uniform of blue jeans and a white tank top, followed by a wet-haired Virginia. "Howdy, comrade," she said. "All right, we're coming," Colt said. "Just the kids, though. Mom's got a doozy of a headache, and Beth's staying, too. That's our eldest sister," he added to Ravini. Ravini thought about Tristan, those angry eyes, the cold voice. An image of the older boy chewing an egg salad sandwich while glaring at Ravini across the kitchen table made him shudder. "What about your older brother?" he asked. He tried to make his voice sound casual, but apparently failed because Colt scrunched his nose and said, "Don't worry, he's out hunting for gainful employment." He winked at Ravini, then clapped his hands at the younger children, still mostly hidden behind the door. "We are invited guests," he said, "so everyone needs to put on shoes." Matching groans sounded out from behind the door. "And socks?" "Yep, underwear too. Clean underwear. Hop to it." There was another groan of protest, and then the twins emerged from behind the door and trudged up the stairs. The boy Ravini noticed was definitely not wearing clean underwear. He could tell because the boy wasn't wearing any underwear at all, which he could tell because he wasn't wearing any clothes whatsoever. Colt saw Ravini's surprised look and shrugged. "It's bath day," he said again. A few minutes later, they were all stomping up the front steps of Ravini's house. Virginia was still wearing her faded denim overalls, but they were now strapped over a green button-down shirt instead of the usual white t-shirt. "Listen up," Colt said when they were on the porch. He looked into each of their eyes, waiting for them to look back. Then he pointed at each one as he said their names. "Annabel Deering, Winnie Deering, Benjamin Deering, Virginia Deering. Remember what Mom said. You will all be on your most sterling behavior. Please and thank yous and excuse me's. No weird or embarrassing behavior. Absolutely no cursing. Understand?" Virginia snorted. "Yes, sir," Colt asked. "You, dear brother, are the crown prince of weird and embarrassing behavior." "Well, then that makes me royalty. Your shirt's on backwards, Your Majesty," Virginia answered. Colt looked down quick. His hand flew up to finger the tag sticking out at the front of his collar and inside out. "Damn it," he said, and pulled his arms into the armholes and wiggled and writhed, but only had the shirt halfway turned around when the front door opened behind Virginia. Ravini's mother stood there, wiping her hands on a towel. "Oh, hello. I thought I heard voices out here." "Hello, Mrs. Foster," Virginia said. She held out her hand formally, and Ravini's mother shook it. "My name is Virginia Daring. Thank you for inviting us to lunch. My mother sends her apologies." Virginia pulled a small white envelope from her pocket and handed it to Ravini's mother. "Thank you, dear," she said, opening the envelope and scanning the card inside. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that she's not feeling well. We'll be sure to send some food home with you then." She looked up and scanned the crowd on the porch. Colt had stopped wrestling with himself and was standing there, shirt halfway turned around, his arms still pinned inside. He slapped on a winning smile. "Good afternoon," he said. Ravini's mother laughed. "Good afternoon. Well, it looks like we're short on sandwiches and cheers," she smiled. "So we'll do blankets." While Ravini's mother made a few more sandwiches, Ravini and the others spread a couple of blankets in the backyard. "So," Miss Foster said once she joined them on the blanket, "let's do names. Virginia I know, but I'll need introductions from the rest of you." She looked to Benjamin and Winnie, but Virginia jumped in. "This is Winnie and Benjamin," she said. "Twins?" Ravini's mother asked, stretching to shake their hands. "Yes," Winnie smiled. Then her smile dropped. "Yes, please. I had a bath today, Benjamin announced, and I'm wearing clean underwear, thank you. Virginia's face stayed calm, but Ravini noticed her nostrils flare. Well, Ravini's mother said through a smile, then you and I already have two things in common, Benjamin, and such good manners. Benjamin smiled and stuck his tongue out at Virginia. Her eyes smoldered, but she forced a smile at Miss Foster and moved on. This is Annabelle, she said, Annabelle Deering. Wonderful to meet you, Miss Annabelle. And this is my older brother, Virginia cut in. He saved the best for last, Colt exclaimed, jumping to his feet and dropping into a dramatic bow. My name is Colt Deering. He held out his hand and took Miss Foster's, then kissed it with a loud smack. It is truly a pleasure to make your acquaintance, Miss Foster. My, what a gentleman, she laughed. Isn't he, though? Virginia said through gritted teeth. 5 beautiful children. That's quite a houseful. 7, actually, Colt said. Our oldest brother and sister couldn't make it, Virginia explained. 7? How lovely to have such a big family. I always wanted a big family. Then why didn't you have one? Benjamin asked. Benjamin, Virginia hissed at him. Sorry, he said quickly. Then why didn't you have one, please? Her smile tightened at its corners. A fair question. One doesn't always get what one wants, though, she said softly, her smile fading. I always thought someday. But her voice dwindled to silence. Ravini swallowed and leaned in so that his shoulder touched hers. He knew the truth, of course, and the pain of it. She blinked, and the warmth came back to her smile. But we are very lucky and grateful to have one miracle. She rubbed Ravini's back, and his face burned hot. It would be greedy to want more than that. Now let's eat, shall we? Eating lunch with most of the Deering family turned out to be fairly messy and more than a bit noisy. It was very different from the quiet, only child lunches that Ravini used to have. It was sort of like lunch in the Slaughterhouse Elementary School cafeteria, Ravini thought, except less lonely and less dangerous, and much more fun. At one point, when Colt threw a grape and it hit Winnie right between the eyes, Ravini laughed so hard that lemonade came out his nose, which only made him laugh even harder. And then, like a sudden flock of starlings that fills the sky with wings and life and then swoops just as suddenly away, they were gone. Colt herded the horde back across the street while Virginia lingered to help finish washing the dishes. Thank you for having us over, Miss Foster, Virginia said as Ravini and his mother walked her to the front door. That was the best egg salad I ever had. Well, thank you, dear. It's my own recipe. I'll need to have your mother over soon. I'd love to meet the woman who raised five such charming and well-behaved children. She would love that. I'll let her know. Virginia stopped in the hallway. She was looking at a painting hung on the wall. It was a picture of a young boy holding out a pudgy hand. A black and white chickadee was perched on the boy's finger. This looks like you, Ravini, but smaller. Well, Ravini mumbled, it is me. Virginia blinked, then looked to Miss Foster. You painted this? She said in a serious voice. Oh, yes, forever ago, Ravini's mother said, waving her hand dismissively. I don't know why I have it up. It's silly. No, Virginia murmured, looking back at the painting. It's not silly at all. It's wonderful. Virginia said it like it was true. And Ravini, looking closer at the painting that had hung for years in his own hallway, realized that it was true. The chickadee looked alive, as though it could fly right off the canvas. And his own face in the painting was half in golden light and half in shadow, and he was about to smile or laugh. His cheek dimpled, one eye squinted, mouth open. You could nearly hear the giggle. It seemed and almost feel the sunshine. It was wonderful. Sometimes a soul needs to see something through another soul's eyes to really see the thing at all. Oh, well, goodness, thank you, dear. His mother sounded shy, which was not something Ravini was used to. Painting was a little dream of mine, a long time ago. What happened? Virginia asked, her voice plain and her eyes back on Miss Foster. I don't know, she answered, and it sounded true. I guess the funny thing about dreams is that sometimes you wake up. She sighed, eyes lost in the painting. Her voice sounded far away. I always thought that someday I'd live in some special place. Rarini frowned. He'd never known that his mother had ever dreamed of leaving Slaughterville. That I'd be a chef, or a painter, or a pianist. And, you play the piano? Virginia interrupted. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to play the piano. Really? Well, I'll be happy to teach you if you'd like. Virginia blinked. She raised her eyebrows. You have a piano? Her voice was still soft, still flat, but was suddenly much more intense, breathless almost. Yes, right here in the parlor. Would you really like to learn? I used to offer lessons. Virginia's eyes dropped. I I can't pay, I don't think. I mean, I'll ask my mother, but no charge for neighbors, Miss Foster cut in. So, shall we make beautiful music together, Virginia? Then something very strange happened. Virginia didn't smile, or blush, or roll her eyes. Instead, her eyes filled with tears. Quietly. Eyes are always quiet, technically, but at some moments they are even more quiet than usual. Virginia blinked wetly up at Ravini's mother. I would love that. She didn't just say it like it was true, which it was. She said it like it was the sort of truth that a soul says, and not just a mouth. Splendid. Tomorrow morning, then. Say 8 o'clock. I'll be looking forward to it. A moment later, Ravinia and Virginia stood alone in the front porch. Your mother is wonderful, Virginia said. Ravinia, like many children, had rarely thought about whether his mother was wonderful or not. It's easy if they're always there and they're always kind. It's harder if they're not. Yeah, she's all right, I guess, Ravini said. She's sad, though. What? No, she's not. Yes, she is. I can tell. Virginia narrowed her eyes and cocked her head to the side, and when she asked her next question, her voice was gentle. How come you're an only child, Rav, if your mother wanted a big family? Ravini chewed on his lips. He blinked fast. He said, then looked away and cleared his throat, trying to swallow the sharp pain that was there. My mother, she wanted more children. She tried, but through his blurry eyes, Ravini saw Virginia nod. Sometimes the baby just didn't last. Miscarriages. Sometimes the baby made it, but when they came, they were already gone. Ravini remembered it all. Hope and excitement and tiny brought clothes. And he remembered midnight rushes to the hospital and sad-faced doctors. He remembered very small funerals with very small coffins. Tears spilled onto his cheeks, though he tried to hold them back. I'm sorry, he mumbled, wiping his face and looking down. It's silly, I guess, to be sad over losing a baby that never even was really. Virginia took one step closer to him. It's not silly. It's not one little bit silly. They were souls, and you loved them, and then you lost them. That's sad, Raph. Of course it is. Then Virginia did something very unexpected, but beautiful things are often unexpected. She wrapped Ravini in a hug, soft, but then stronger and stronger, like the sun rising. It was warm and it was tight. Ravini wasn't sure what to do at first, but a soul, when it's surprised by something unexpected and beautiful, almost always knows what to do, really. So, after a shaky breath, he wrapped his arms around her too, and he squeezed her back. Virginia was a good comrade. Sometimes, when a soul is very sad, it doesn't really want to not be sad. It just wants to not be sad alone. Finally, she pulled back. She kept her hands on his shoulders, though, and looked gravely into his eyes. You've been awful lonely, she said. So have I. So tell the truth, Ravini. Will you ever betray me? Can I trust you? Ravini took a breath. Yes. Virginia blinked. Yes, you'll betray me, or yes, I can trust you. Oh, the second one. Then say it. Say it loud so I can hear. Ravini gulped, and he looked straight into that girl's gray eyes. That girl who had thrown rocks at the monsters and run him through the moonlight and opened a window so he could see the sunlight and said out loud that he was gold. All that in a few days. You can trust me, Virginia. I'll never betray you. Virginia listened close, head tilted to one side. Then she nodded. Good. So she let go of him and walked away down the stairs, then looked back over her shoulder at him. Come over tonight, after dinner. Then I'll share it with you. Share what? The secret. All right, come back for chapter 14.